Here at the Armory, I released a video recently about GOATA training, and if some of you may be wondering what the heck that even was, I just wanted to follow up with another video because, it takes me a while to think about things. Again, I'm not against GOATA. This isn't even really necessarily about GOATA. It's just that these trends that come and go and these ideas that usually are full of a lot of really buzzwordy, cool exercises we've never seen before. Any exercise you haven't done before is probably going to seem really cool and challenging. That's not to say the exercises that GOATA is doing is bad. I think they're great. I think they're fine. I think they're great. This is all I would say. In kind of adding on to this, though, is that when I train athletes here at the Armory, one of the things we do all the time is pogo jumps, ankling. Some people call it. I mean, there's different versions of this. I realize ankling and pogos are a little bit different, but different varieties of pogos. Pogos going sideways. I'm talking about pogos. It's just jumping up and down, right? And not trying to go for distance per se. I say work the springs, right? This idea of just building lower leg stiffness. In doing that in multiple directions and then jumping over cones, there's typical slalom type jumps and forward and backs, simple low intensity type of exercises. That, without even telling many of these athletes, is teaching them how to stay on the complete ball of the foot, not just the outside, but on the complete ball of the foot. And so in a lot of ways, that is also reprogramming dynamically, even more so. I mean, I realize some of the GOATA exercises are dynamic, but even more so, dynamically reprogramming any foot that might have that medial arch collapse, in other words, the inside of the foot dumps, right? That's a simple exercise. And a lot of it is just doing it over and over again. So like GOATA does say, and I agree with this part of it for sure, however you move for the long term, that's how you're going to move. So it is, I think, the idea that if somebody was a power lifter and all they did is lift out of the backside of their foot their whole life and never did anything else and then went out and started trying to be athletic, there's always genetic outliers here, but that would probably be somebody who would have reduced amount of stiffness and have a tremendous amount of ability to develop peak force. They just weren't able to do it very quickly because they haven't trained that way. That's just the specificity. That's just specificity of training, the old SAID principle, specific adaptations to opposed demands. That's nothing fancy there. And so that's why I would say the same thing when we look at some of these very specific training plans like GOATA, is that could we do the same thing? Are we doing the same thing with just some of our basic exercises, just done well and done a lot? I'm thinking of an athlete that, I've had many of them that had that medial arch collapse type of where they're kind of almost running on the inside of their foot. And the best thing for them to do is a lot of pogo jumps. That's what will help rebuild that arch and build that sensitivity to where they should be jumping on their foot. So just some extra thought, when you think about not just GOATA, and I think GOATA has some value, but when we're thinking about, well, maybe we're doing some of the stuff already, it just doesn't have kind of buzzwordy minutia associated with it. That stuff doesn't necessarily sell books and make you an internet sensation. So take it for what it's worth. Hopefully that's helpful.